Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast. This week we talk with Adrian Dominguez. He's the owner of Master Window Cleaning Professional out in the Bay Area. We have a wide-ranging interview. We talk about a lot of different topics, including his growth from working for someone else to becoming a single owner operator of his own business in his area. Talks about some of the things that he's, kind of came to. We talk a lot about equipment as well, preferences, that type of thing. We also talk about the importance of networking, both in a formal setting like with the IWCA, but also networking within our own city with other window cleaners in our area, maintaining friendly but competitive relationships with them and how that can benefit us. And we also have a discussion about the importance of developing the loyalty within our customer base by forming those relationships, going beyond just being a service provider, but actually getting to know the people and having them root for your business to succeed. So it was a really interesting interview, and we won't delay anymore, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Hey, Flowmies, it's time for another edition of the ITF Flowcast, and this week we have a treat for you. We got Adrian Dominguez with us. How you doing, Adrian?
Good.
Good, man. Good to talk with you. Thanks so much for making the time. So you are the owner of Master Window Cleaning Professional, and you work out of like the Silicon Valley Bay Area region of the U.S., correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. So and how long have you been doing it?
Almost 17 years.
17 years. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very experienced. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into it, though, I just have to give you a congratulations. You got a brand new baby boy that was just delivered a few days ago, right?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
What's his name?
Luke.
Luke. Oh, that's right, because it was close to May the 4th be with you, right?
Yeah. It was supposed to land on that day, but
just missed it, right? Just
5 hours, man. I was like, just wait 5 more hours, dude. No, it would have been so cool. I mean, but
no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So if you nod off during the interview, I'm not going to hold it against you. All right. I understand.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. But how is that? How are you guys able to work it out as far as like you're running your business? I think you said your wife works, or is she able to take a leave of absence?
She's taking a leave right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She's taking a leave, and I took this week off, but I go back Monday, and it's, I don't know how it's going to work out with her because we have a 2.5-year-old.
Sure.
But we're trying to adjust to it, trying to figure things out. So it's going to be hopefully an easy transition for her. If not, then we'll figure it out. We got family here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's we're just trying to do the best we can right now with the babies. And
well, it's a lot of work, but man, I'm so happy for you. And that's neat that you have a son, right? And the firstborn son.
Yes.
So I have a little baby brother now.
So he's actually it is my first with her, but he's actually boy number 5.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. I got 3 teenagers. The twins are 18. And then I got a 17-year-old, and then the 2.5-year-old, and then, the 5-day-old.
Man. All right. Well, that's going to sounds like a lot of fun, man. I'm really happy for you and your family. It's really cool to have that addition. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to have you on because you are a single owner operator, and we have that's a big chunk of the whole window cleaner industry. A lot of single operator owners, and you've done a really nice job of establishing yourself in an area that really has a lot of window cleaners. So I thought you had a lot of really good ideas to benefit. But first, why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into window cleaning, how you started, what gave you the ideas, and when you went on your own and how that was like?
So I got into window cleaning. I think I was looking for a job, and I went through a temp agency or something, or it was one of those places that help you look for work.
Sure.
Over in Salinas, and they referred me over to this guy in Carmel Valley, and I went. I did the interview. I've done a little bit of window cleaning, other jobs, right? Like when I was working at gas stations and stuff.
Right.
Nothing like, where it was just all about the windows. And I got the interview. they hired me. A couple days in, my boss was like, he kind of took me under his wing. They used to have one of the Quail Meadows, or the Quail Golf Course down there.
Oh yeah.
And so they used to keep a guy there. All the rookies used to start there. It was the best place for them, to
easy
practice.
windows, easy panes.
Yeah. It's routine. You do rooms, you do the stores and stuff outside of work. So after a while, he kind of saw that, I got it. I was like, I got the technique, and so he started taking me out and to the jobs, and it just kind of, from there, it just kind of, took off. It took me about a week to get it, I think, to get it really good.
That's fast, dude.
Yeah. But you know what, it sounds kind of crazy, but you know what I think it was? Then I think it was like my third day in or fourth day in. That night I had a dream. I was just cleaning windows, man, in my dream. It was like nonstop. I don't know if you ever had those, where those dreams were just work related. And
I have a lot of work related dreams, but usually it involves me like losing my business. So it's never me actually cleaning. It's usually like, oh, remember that check that you were supposed to pay like 3 months ago? Oh yeah, well, it's coming due now. Those are my kind of dreams. Those anxiety dreams. I rarely have like actually working dreams.
Yeah. No, man. In that dream, and I won't forget it, because I swear, man, it was like the day after. It was like I had it. It was like,
it's like the Matrix. They just downloaded the window cleaning program into your brain, huh?
Yeah, exactly, man. But yeah, man. I was there with that guy for like 5 years, I believe, and then I ended up going to the Bay Area to work for. Actually, no. When I was in the Bay Area, I went through a temp agency. I was doing a bunch of random jobs. And then one day I was working for a plumber, and I told him, man, I really wanted to get into a window clean out here and get into the skyscrapers and, do all that high-rise work. And so he was like, really? He goes, well, I know a guy that's in one of those, what do you call those?
Like a networking
group. And it's like, he's like, yeah, it's him and his son, and they got a couple employees, and, I'll reach out to him next time I see him. I'll let him know about you. And so he did. I worked with the guy for a little bit, and I think he told me, yeah, I mentioned something to the guy, but he I guess he's kind of like, he has all the people he needs right now. Well, a couple months later, I get the call, and I got this guy came to pick me up to try me out, and his name is Ron Frediani, and super cool guy. And after he saw me climb up these ladders in the golf course, the stacks, he saw me with the stacks. He saw me go up and down this tower, and pretty much, after that, I guess he told me, after I saw you climb those ladders, man, I knew, like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's when you said stacks. I say, if I had a guy who didn't have any experience and they knew how to use stacks right away, I'd hire him a second. I'd be like, oh yeah, that guy's going places. Because I can't even I got a set of stacks, and I struggle with them. So.
Well, what the funny thing was, man, it was, when I worked for him that day, I had never seen Sorbo channels, man. It was all Tori. That's all that the other company used.
That's all we use.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, what the hell was this big thing? I mean, I knew it was a squeegee, but it wasn't what I was used to,
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I got used to the Sorbo, and I try to stick with the Tori for a while, but after using Sorbo I kind of,
you get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got used to it.
It's a whole different feel. I mean, not just even channels aside, the rubber itself is a whole different feel. And it is more ideal for commercial stuff. Definitely wide frames. I struggle with it in residential, because, I think what's nice about the Ed channels is they're thin. So you can kind of get behind like blinds, and you can get behind skinny stuff that, you don't really run into on the commercial. Whereas with the Sorbo, or even with the like the Ettore Super Channel or the Unger Ninja, you know, all of those with the thicker channels, it's like that little weight just kind of carries, you know, and you can just kind of cover a lot of ground a lot easier with but I've used Ettore my whole life, so it's like second nature, you know, like any benefits that the thicker channels give, I kind of have learned just to overcome it after so many years. You know, it feels weird if I have anything else in my hand other than an Ettore brass, you know, 18-inch. That's just what I use for so long. I've tried everything just about. I mean, I'm always up for trying stuff, you know, but I always come back to the Ettore brass.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do carry one of those channels because, you know, there's those areas where you do need it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you learn to have a little bit of everything because along the way you experience all these challenges, and sometimes, you know, the sorbos don't cut it all the time.
Yep. Well, and like that's why I have a wagtail. I carry a wagtail with me. I don't use it very much, but there are just some windows that's the best way to do it. You know, the best way is, and you know, you could use a Mormon, you know, with the flick and everything, if you wanted. But you know, it's like you said, like, and I have another worker who he pretty much only uses the wagtail. That's what he loves. And when he does, especially commercial, or, you know, we're doing residential with big panes, that's all he does. He just loves because he comes from from a high rise background. So he was used to, you know, that's what he used on there, you know, on when he dropped. So he's just really good at it. I mean, he's just really, really good. And I'm decent. I'm not great, but like you said, there's some where you know, if you can avoid getting up a ladder and you learn how to use this tool, it's worth it. You know, then you have it and it's available to pull out if you need it.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been doing it for what, 20 years, you said?
20,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started like me. It's all traditional, man. So you learn with the poles, the ledgers, all that stuff, man.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got I got a little rusty with the ledger, but back in the day, I was really good with the ledger. I mean, I can still do it, and I still have a couple accounts where I need it. But same thing with the backflip, the Ettore backflip. I'm so fast with the backflip, you know, and then people will be like, "Oh, how come you don't do this and this?" I'm like, I could, but let me just show you how fast I am with this, and then you tell me if it's really worth me learning a whole new style, you know. And I might be, you know, they may be like 3 seconds faster than me, and it's like, that's not enough for me to want to have to devote a whole lot of time to learning, you know, how to use a Mormon this way, you know, when I could just do the backflip just as fast, you know.
Yeah, well, with the backflip, I used to use that over in Carmel, but the thing about it was because it's in the coast, right? So it's super windy, man, and you know, you got too much water. And the thing about the coast is we got all that salt, right? So you gotta, you know, you really have to wet that window if you don't want to leave those streaks on there.
Yeah, we don't deal with any salt in Arizona. we are all dirt, all dust. That's our biggest, well, the dust and the sun. So you know, that's why the backflip's nice, because you can have a big pane and I can break it up into 3 sections. So I'll wet twice and then squeegee down, wet in the middle, squeegee down, wet on the end, squeegee down. And it's all in one motion because I'm just flipping the thing. And that's why I got so good at it, because in the heat, when you're trying to pull, if you try to wet that entire pane and then go back and then squeegee, it's not working, you know. And the wagtail is decent, it really is, but you can't get the washer as soaking wet as you can with the backflip. The backflip is just a regular, you know, I use a Golden Glove on it, and that holds so much water. So with the wagtail, with the Mormon, you know, it's just that thin material. And so I found that even though I can do, you know, all the motion flipping, if it's a big pane, I can even start to see where it starts drying too fast towards the end of the motion, you know. So with the backflip, it's just a regular, you know, a strip washer sleeve, and I can get that nice and wet and soaking, and then just go and handle it, you know, in the heat. So that's kind of why I found that as kind of my weapon of choice, you know, when it came in the sun. But you know, like I said, I use all of it though. I mean, I like you say, you can't really stick to just one when there's so many awesome tools out there that, you know, are just perfect for certain circumstances, for sure.
Yeah, for me, the storefronts, I tried going back to the Torah, man, and it's not the same. But I buy so I know that sometimes when you buy the Sorbo channel,
Mm-hmm.
it comes with a certain rubber. And I
Right.
don't think it's the same as when you buy the roll. So
No,
you buy
it's
the
not.
50-foot roll, and man, it's like, yeah, that's the ticket.
Yeah. I
For
know a lot of
commercial
people
cleaning.
who love cutting their own rubber, man. They can't, they will never buy anything out of that roll. They love it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of my deal too. But I did try. I actually last season I tried the Black Diamond
Oh yeah.
rubber.
How
Yeah,
do you
so that
like it?
was
How do you
yeah,
like it?
it was pretty good. I mean, I liked it for fanning a little bit more, but not as much for the pull downs for the
Mm-hmm.
storefronts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I kind of liked it just more for the fanning.
Well, see, I tried a package when it first came out,
Mhm.
and not like right at the beginning, but like right when it first started getting kind of some buzz, you know. And man, I wasn't impressed. I just felt like it didn't last very long, and I kind of got little streaks where I normally wouldn't get streaks, you know. But
Mhm.
then I realized that there was a lot of it. I don't know if you know the whole story. I'm not going to get into it here, but you know, the person who was selling it was selling like expired rubbers, and
Oh,
he was selling them as a discount, but not telling people they were expired, and so he was just trying to unload them. And you know, we went to WCR now, and WCR, you know, they're you know, real pretty above board. And so I haven't bought any new because I had such a bad I don't say it was a terrible experience. It wasn't worth it to me, you know. But I've not tried them now that I know that we would be getting fresher rubbers, you know.
rubber.
So I feel guilty sometimes because I'm like, man, I should really give it another shot and just see if it's good. But again, I've used Ettore rubber for my whole career, and it's what I'm used to. I like Sorbo a lot, for especially for commercial. I like Sorbo rubber. I don't really care for the Unger rubber. I really don't like the Pulex. I really don't like the Pulex. I know some people like it a lot.
Yeah.
But you know, surprisingly, the ones that I kind of like is the Al rubber from ABC, and I wasn't expecting to like it. It's not. It still doesn't last as long as like the Ettore, but for like commercial work, it's less expensive, and I can give it to my new guys, and they can use it. So it kind of saves me a little money on that. Um, but it's like I tell anybody, you know, look, the right rubber, the best rubber is the one that works for your style of cleaning. And if you
Yeah.
find one that you like, then just stick with it. You know, experiment if you want, but like a rubber isn't going to change your whole window cleaning career unless you've been working with one that works against your style, and then
Yeah.
you find one that fits, right? You know,
Yeah.
but it's really just for me, it's more customer service. If customer service is good, and the rubber is fits my style, man, you know, just stick with that. That's just always my advice.
Yeah. Well,
Think,
the only thing I changed with the Sorbo is the I saw the new Viper with the Viper, right? Is that what it's called?
yeah. Oh, the new one, the new
The
channel you're
new
talking
one,
about,
right?
right?
It
Yeah.
has, yeah. So I went for the thinner channel this time because you kind of I kind of feel like after all the years of using Sorbo, it's taken a toll on my wrist a little bit.
Mm,
So
that is a
I'm
concern.
yeah. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna get this lighter channel, just keep the roll and see how it works. And it worked. I used it, was it last week? It was right before the baby came. I used it for about 2 weeks. It worked pretty good, but you know, again, I think the rubber I bought with it is different compared to the roll.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna try just cutting, you know, the rubber
The
itself,
ends.
kind of
Yeah,
through the
yeah, yeah.
handle of it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. See
Yeah, a
how
lot
it.
of people do that with the Mormon too, because the Mormon has the little, you know, corners there, and so they'll just take a regular one and then just cut it off like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll do that. Um, yeah, you know, it's interesting when you said that with you know, trying the different rubber on that, because like on the wrist too, you know, like some people because I like the brass, and I've heard people say, oh no, the Ettore brass is too heavy. And I'm like, heavy? Are you serious? How is
No.
that too heavy? And they like the Unger light, that's light, you know, and it's the real aluminum channel, and they swear by it, you know. And I try it, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just gonna break this thing, you know, when I'm going to. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I have the control that I
Yeah.
have with the brass, because the brass has the clips at the end. So I feel like I can, really control it. And then I dog ear my channels as well, because I like a lot of people, people are always like with the Mormon or with the other, they're like, oh, there's no detailing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you just dog ear the ends of the ed array, you get that same control. It's just a matter of, you just need to push down that rubber. So when you're getting that corner, you get that full corner of that rubber up against it.
That's funny you mentioned that, the corner thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you call it the dog ear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've done that forever. I didn't even know that's what it was called. It was just intuitive that, oh man, I feel like I need to have more control on those ends. So I just started doing that. And then I talked, who was it that I talked with? Oh, it might've been Michael Draper. As a matter of fact, he's the one who called it dog ears. And because I was asking him about Mormon, and he was saying, oh yeah, some guys really like it. They love it. It fits with them. He's like, they like the control. And I said, what do you like? He goes, oh, I just dog ear my channels. And I'm like, what's dog ear? And he told me, I was like, oh, I do that. I was like, all right, well, then I guess I'm good.
Yeah,
But
I would go back to the Tory if I could fit the Sorbo rubber in there. I swear, man. I just
well, they do have the Sorbo rubber that has the rounded ends instead of the T ends, I think.
But I don't know if they have it in the big roll though.
Oh, I see, in the big roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that big roll is my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
don't
tried
know
it. I tried it before when I was still working for AWC up in the Bay Area, and it doesn't work the same. But I love that rubber, man.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I love it, man. And I would go back because again, it's lighter.
Right.
It's lighter, and it's just yeah, man. I kind of regret sometimes even picking up a Sorbo because man, I really
now you're spoiled, huh?
Yeah, I swore by it, man. It was like my go-to for everything, and
yeah.
But I don't get me wrong. I stuck with the Sorbo even though I wasn't quite what do you say, sure of it. I wasn't sure if it was still for me. I wasn't confident with it
right
as much, but it took some time, and after a while I was like, okay, yeah, you know what, I think I got it now. And
but see, that's the key of being a professional though, right there. What you say, Adrian, is it's just like a professional, like a basketball player or a baseball player or whatever. Whenever they use a different type of equipment, there is like a time where you have to kind of get used to it. But if you're a professional, you understand all the intricacies of that motion, even if it may not seem like a big deal to a layperson. To a professional, you kind of learn how to make the tweaks that are necessary to make a piece of equipment work, and that's the way it is with the rubbers. And that's any type of squeegee, anything that has its own little character or idiosyncrasy. If you're a professional and you really want to use that piece of equipment, you will learn it. You will learn to adapt. You'll learn to make changes. And like for me, because I've used the same equipment for so long, it's second nature. So I will always revert back to that no matter what. But if I'm using a different squeegee, like for instance, a Sorbo, I've learned how to adapt my motion to make it work as good as it can, especially when you're talking about the softness or the hardness of a rubber. I like my rubber a little bit harder than probably most. And so, when you have a softer rubber, I have to learn to adapt on the pressure that I'm putting on the squeegee in order to make that rubber work. Because if I push too hard on it, then you're going to get streaks, right? Or you're going to leave lines. And so a professional knows themselves well enough that they can adapt and they can make, because I can pretty much make any squeegee work. Now I have my preferences because they fit into what my natural, tendencies are, but I can make anything work. And I think that's the biggest difference between someone who just shows up on the job and grabs any squeegee and works, to someone who is like, okay, this is my brand, but you know what? I got this for the day, or this squeegee is going to work best for this job. I'm going to learn to use it and to make sure that I can do this, still have the same quality, even if it maybe I have to think a little bit more about what I'm doing than I normally do,
Yeah, I will tell you this, that when I do decide to hire, if it's someone with no experience, they are going to start with the iterate, because with Sorbo, man, if you do it wrong, angle it wrong, you will scratch a window.
Yep.
And it's like,
yeah, forgiveness for sure.
Yeah. So I definitely gonna try to train someone with that. Fanning if they can would probably be the best.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as someone picks up the technique and the window comes out fine, I'll be happy with that. And then they could pick
Yeah.
up the speed as they go.
Yeah.
But
Well, you mentioned the your boss using that one deal. Was it a dealership, a car dealership, or no? No, it was a golf course. A golf course.
of course, yeah.
That was kind of the training grounds. That's how I run my business with the commercial side. I have a commercial route. It's not huge. It's not a lot, but it is there. And I try to start my new guys on that route as that's the first thing that they're going to hit when they're learning. And this is no experience, right? They're going to start there. And I usually have them with someone. They go do the route and they break it in. And once they're good enough to do the job themselves, then that's what I have them do. And it's kind of like the training, the training, spring training grounds, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'll put them there, and then I will give them jobs. And even if it takes them the whole day to do like 5 jobs, that's just what they're going to work on. And I'm just going to give that to them. And that's, they're going to be doing the work. They're going to learn how to drive the trucks. They're going to learn how to follow the schedule. They're going to learn how to get the signatures, how to collect the invoices or send the invoices. And I'm not concerned about making money on them at that point. I just want them to get through the motion and learn how to do the job. Even if they've got to clean one window 6 times until they get it right,
Yeah.
I want them to get those reps in. And it's on a low risk job, right? Nice big frames. It's a commercial job, so the workers typically aren't going to be there looking over their shoulder, seeing if they're doing it right. And they can kind of get the practice that they need. And I've always had that philosophy without really even thinking about it. But then once they've kind of got the route down, and now I see they're getting done early, and I give them more, and they're still finishing early. Now I know, okay, they've learned enough of the basics, and now I can pull them into the residential side and start training them on screens and training them on how blinds and everything else that is kind of stuff that we take for granted, but that someone who's never done residential has to learn, because otherwise they're going to damage some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least I use the commercial just for the basic stuff, like what you're saying. Give them the basic squeegee, give them basic hip bucket, boab and washer, and just let them learn without pressure, without having to feel like there's some deadline or some time limit that they have to do. They can just take their time, do it, and then when they're ready, then we start pulling them into the more high pressure side of the job.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the way to go. That way they lose the fear, the squeegee, and they kind of figure out what works for them. And just when you take it to the residential, they use that, on the smaller scale or bigger scale.
Absolutely,
depending on the job. Yeah.
And so, how did you get started on your own? Like, you worked for someone for how long did you work for the guy?
Man, I was with them until 2018. So from 2010 to 2018. Yeah, to 2018. I think it was at the end of 2018 when I left. September of 2018 is when I left them. Okay. And it's because, for one, it's when my wife got pregnant, and then we moved because I lived in the Bay Area,
gotcha.
San Bruno, and we moved over to Hollister. So at first I thought, I'm going to be able to do this commute, not a problem. And my bosses, they were like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's not going to be an issue. It's going to take me this long to get here, this long to get there." But I didn't think about the gas. I didn't realize how crazy the commute was, because before COVID, it was about 2.5 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. And in the mornings, I had to leave at 5 in the morning, right at 5 in the morning, so I could beat the traffic and swing around over to the Bay. Because here in Hollister, they got something called Pacheco Pass, and there's like another valley over this hill. And everyone comes over the hill to go to the Silicon Valley to work in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
All the construction workers, painters,
right.
Everything.
Right.
So that's where the money.
Everyone's in line, huh?
Yeah, that's where the higher pay is. It's so it's madness, man. The mornings were always crazy because it's just nonstop. You see all these cars everywhere and just trying to get somewhere out there. So I did it for 2 weeks, man. I think after my first week, I was like, yeah, this is kind of crazy. Um, and then I was check the amount of gas I was using. My truck's a V8, right?
Oh.
So yeah, man. It was kind of like, man, don't get me wrong. My bosses, they always took care of me, man. I was their dude, man. I
Yeah.
was their guy. They're my Italian family,
Right.
right? So it just it was too much, man. And finally I had to talk with them, and I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I gave him a 2 week notice, man. And I honestly thought I wasn't gonna be able to do it because man, I felt so one thing about me was I felt like the company, it wasn't my company, but I treated
Yeah,
it like it was,
absolutely. And that's why
right?
you're ready to run your own business because you're treating the people you work for as if you were invested in it,
Yeah,
monetarily.
I cared, man. I mean, I made sure that they had the right employees. Even prior to me going, because even though the move hadn't happened yet, I had to start being realistic and be like, okay, what if it doesn't work out? Um, and it just kind of, I started kind of brainstorming with my wife, like, okay, what if it doesn't work? And she goes, well, what if you start your own? And um, it kind of like, that's kind of how I got motivated to do it. Just take that leap. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it was after I gave my 2 week notice. They paid me out whatever they owed me, vacation time, whatever else there was, and I pretty much got all that money and I threw it into advertising, man. I,
Mhm.
I bought the equipment and I threw everything into advertising, um, to Yelp. I threw it into Yelp pretty much, and Google Ads, I believe, um, and Facebook. I did Facebook, but when you first start,
Right.
it's one thing knowing the work and the ins and outs, but not the the business aspect of it.
Yeah. That's going from a tech, right? From cleaning to an owner where you got to actually run the business and make business decisions.
Yeah,
And that's the hard part. That's the hardest shift for sure.
yeah. So, um, yeah, it definitely was a learning experience, especially because the time of the year where I kind of started, which was October. It was October of 2018, so it was like gutter season, windows, and I figured, oh, well, whatever work does come in, it might be like a paycheck, you know,
Mhm.
from back when I was with the company, but it wasn't that easy. It took me a while to figure out Yelp, right?
Yes.
Um,
And you
not
can
all the
you can burn through a lot of money with Yelp if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, man, and I did, and I did, um, because as part of it is they got that system where you get someone's requesting a quote, and it might not even be for you. It might
Yes.
be for a different company, and
Yes.
that's one of the things that just kind of killed me with it. But
Yeah.
um, and then I was used to going to the job. Maybe at least if I could see the job, I'll be able
Mhm.
to give a price.
Mhm.
But sometimes when they got the request, I was either home and they were way up north. And I'm like, oh, man, how am I going to do this? So I kind of figured, like, I learned how to use Google Earth, maps, uh, the internet. Most houses have been flipped out there. So there's a bunch of pictures of them out there, asking the common questions. Do you have grids? Are they pellet windows? Are they just regular windows? All that stuff. It kind of gave me an idea. And I kind of learned doing it that way, um, a little bit. And I remember talking to a couple of people from Racenstein. I forget, it was for some kind of technical help, and
Mhm.
some of the guys would be like, "Oh yeah, when I give people quotes over the phone, I just kind of look online." I'm like, "How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna give someone a quote without actually looking at the job?" So yeah, I kind of started asking people for pictures, and some people were hesitant. Um, but after COVID hit, that really boomed.
Then they
People
were
had
like,
no problem.
they were thanking you for that, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, it was kind of like I guess I don't have to adjust that much because I'm kind of already doing it that way.
Yeah. And I attribute that to kind of our little boom that we had, because that, of course, like everybody, we got hit hard in April and May, and I was wondering if we are going to be able to finish. But like you said, because we use Responsibid, so they can go onto our website, click get a free quote, and then it runs them through like a questionnaire. And we've always used that. We've had, I mean, it's been fine, but like you said, there's always people who just want you to come by, they don't really want to do the whole thing. But like you said, once we hit COVID, that was like such a strength in our favor that people were like, oh, wait, I can get a quote without anybody coming over, during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. And then it's like they didn't want to talk to anybody else because they got all the information they needed. They were fine with the price, and it was like, okay, instead of getting a bunch of quotes and making a decision, they were now going, well, what's the most convenient and what's the most makes me feel secure. So yeah, like you said, it just was kind of the time just kind of worked out for those types of quotes.
Yeah. So right. Actually, now there's been people that been a little hesitant again to send the pictures, and that's why like we discussed last time, it was kind of like I really want to do Responsibid, and I'm working on exactly how I'm gonna, when I do purchase it, I already I have a notebook with notes, man, and every job I've been going to, it's like, okay, I'm gonna be doing this, that, and and watching, hearing some of the podcasts and some of the conversations on Into the Flow, and just all that stuff's good for us, man. Like it's kind of like you can use it. It's like, okay, if I need to tweak it, what am I going to do? So Responsibid is definitely going to be added to my webpage. So it helps me. I don't have to commute as much. But yeah, sometimes for realtors, you do have to go and check this stuff out.
And it's like, and they tell you that too. They always say, look, this isn't for every single job. This will save you from going to about 80% of the jobs, and then there's going to be 20% that either the styles are just too unique, it's like a custom house, or the customer's older and they just don't understand computers, or like you say, you're dealing with a realtor and there's or like a construction clean, I mean, there's other things, like, well, for instance, like with Pella's, like you mentioned earlier, if they click they have Pella's, boom, they're gone. It's I'm going to go see it. I'm not going to do no Responsibid on Pella's, and I want to see what we're up against. I'm not just going to do that. So but like you said, it saves me. Whereas before, I was almost ready to come off the glass just to have time to do the estimates, and I was like, that is nuts. Why on earth would I do that? That is just so. And then I was like, well, am I going to pay somebody to go do estimates for me? And so Responsibid just fit perfect for that, right at the right time when I needed it. I had learned about it at one of the, I think it was one of the ICE expos back when those existed. And that's when I first heard about it, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. And then the next convention I saw them at, I was like, yeah, this is it. It's time. I got to do this. And so I went ahead, and I've loved it, and customers really like it too, But no, it's really good. It's really good that you're being smart on that, and you've grown pretty fast, right? I mean, you've done pretty well out there.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason, so part of the sacrifice is the area I cover. So I go all the way up to, I don't go into San Francisco. That's just a whole nother, more traffic, headaches, parking tickets. You don't want to go through that. But I do San Mateo County up to South San Francisco. And then I don't go over the coast there, but I do go. So I got San Mateo, Santa Clara County, which is all Silicon Valley, San Benito, which is Hollister, Monterey County is another one. So I'm like, I when you have a family as big as I do, you can't stop. You gotta get work. If there's not work over there, there's work over here. And one of the things that helped me out is I ask people, put me on Nextdoor. Tell your friends and family. The referrals, man, that's like, that's the best, because as you know, Yelp, sometimes people will go based on your reviews, or they try to go for the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
And, I've always heard if you're closing so many jobs out of 10 jobs, you're probably
Mhm.
too cheap.
You're probably too
And
cheap.
I started paying attention to like, okay, people were saying, oh, the price is right. Oh, I'm like, oh man, you know what? I said, I knew it too because of the hours. Some of the hours and some of the jobs, I did pretty good. They would come out to like between 50 to 70 at first, and then I kind of try to up it a little bit more. But yeah, man, I did learn to ask for referrals, man. That's like because when someone refers you, they when their friends ask for a quote, more likely they're gonna go with you
Yeah.
because they saw your work already.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
know you do a good job, and that's my advice to anyone starting out there is to
Well,
go.
and here's the psychological part of that. People love to be at the beginning of a person's growth, you know, and especially if they like you, like, because then they feel like, oh, I discovered this guy, right? I mean, I still have clients from 20 years ago who, when I walk up and I clean for them, I'm talking with them, the first thing they tell me is, I remember when you used to clean for me 20 years ago and you were just this little kid and you came walking up and and you came and I was like, how's this kid going to clean my windows? I know you did such a good job and you're such a nice young man, and they love to be the one to say, oh, I had Adrian clean for me back when he started out, and they want to tell their friends that, and then they can say, oh, he's clean for me since he started, and you'll never find anyone better than that. And it's that whole kind of like they take ownership of your success, and they celebrate when you succeed because they love to see that story, especially if you're a nice guy. Now if you're a jerk, or you don't do good service, or you don't have good customer service, they're not going to root for you like that. But if you make a connection with those people, and like you say, then you ask them, hey, if you have friends or family who are looking to get their window, if you throw my name out there, I'd appreciate it so much. It would help a small business like me so much. Oh man, people love to root for the little guy. And
Yeah,
if you can get those people in your corner, that's like some powerful free advertising. If you can get it.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, that's the way to do it, man. Um, I like to break the ice with clients because sometimes you go and they're there and nobody's talking, and so once I'm clean, I start cleaning windows near them. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, so hey, I start making some kind of conversation.
Yeah.
I always find something that clicks, and it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we're definitely gonna tell our friends and our neighbors, and we have our own little network here, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you hit on something really important, Adrian, and I think this is something where we excel in at Into the Flow. The type of cleaners who are attracted to this group, it's like we're not just in it for the money. Obviously you run a business because you need to make money, and you want to be successful. You want your business to be profitable. But it's so many people in our line of work, it's like they view their work as like cutthroat. Like, man, if I don't get what's mine, and someone else is going to get it, ain't no one going to get my money. And they have that attitude, and it's reflected in the way they treat their customers.
yeah,
And the thing about it, what I found that I mean, obviously I'm proud that my business is profitable. I'm wanting it to grow in the right ways. I don't want it to, I'm not expecting to be a huge national franchise, but I want my business to grow, and to be where it makes enough that I don't have to work physically, on it. But what I find the most joy in is in the connections. And you just mentioned about talking with them and just kind of getting to know them a little bit. The thing that I really stuck out with me during this whole pandemic, especially early on, especially like, the May, the Junes, and then the Julys and Augusts, because at that time, especially like in August, July, August, um, older people who are mostly my clients hadn't seen their family in months, you know, because a lot of them are snowbirds.
yeah,
So their families out of state, and normally they would have been coming in, every couple months to visit, and they hadn't seen them for months. And then when the holidays came, that's the time when all the families were getting together, and they knew that their family wasn't coming, and so they were sad and they were just really down. And we obviously were taking all of our precautions and wearing the masks, and wearing gloves and booties and everything that we could. Obviously there's still risks and stuff, but we were in their house in close company with people who we had already had an established relationship with. And I personally was touched by so many 15-minute conversations that I had with some of my customers, because I was probably the closest thing to family that they had seen in months, because their family wanted to protect them, and now, of course, most of the older ones are vaccinated, so now the family's coming over again, and it's not as urgent. But just that small piece of time, I really kind of felt the weight of the role that we had. That I'm one of the few people that these individuals may even get to talk to in person, and the human connection that I had the opportunity to make with them um, made me happy in a way I don't think I had expected, to be able to fill that role for them, for just if it's just for a few moments. And but it's like if you're just in it for the money, you're going to miss the whole underlying beauty of moments like that.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to make a connection with people, those things just pop up right in your face and can sometimes even change your life, change the way you view other people in general. And I don't want to overstate that, but for me personally, that's, I just felt that. I felt that unexpectedly I was filling a role that would normally be filled by their family or friends, and now I was the substitute for that. And it was kind of a privilege to be able to help them get through this in this little way, till the time when they could actually be with their loved ones and the ones who they're super close with.
Yeah.
I don't know, window cleaning is just kind of it's such a weird mix like that. Where we're there for the funerals, we're there for the parties, the celebrations, the births, the graduations,
That's
and
true.
and the sad times, when the family. I remember one time I went to go clean for a longtime customer, and the husband was dying of cancer, and all the family was going to come and say their goodbyes. And I got there not knowing what to expect. I mean, I knew he was sick. I knew that he had cancer. I had no idea he was on his last legs. And I show up, and he's there in a hospital bed in the middle of the living room. And I'm working and cleaning, and he's talking with me, and my back's to him, and he can't hardly sit up anyways. But he's like telling me jokes, and he's just asking how I'm doing, and he's chatting. And I wasn't, I just talked to him like he was like before. I didn't pretend there was anything. This is another human being. I'm going to talk to him like another human being. And, we got done and we chatted some more, and I hugged him. And, um, it was just really touching to know that I was in such a weird, special spot where it was so intimate with him. At a, he only lived just a few days later. But to give him a normal conversation, because every single conversation after that was going to be tears, it's going to be emotional, and I could just give him a few hours of just normal guys talking. Nothing underlying, nothing different, no having to say important things. It's just, hey, two guys talking about baseball and joking around, and but we get to do that. And it's like, man, it's such a weird place to be sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw that too. There was clients that hadn't seen their parents, um, but I got to see the parents because sometimes I got the job. Maybe I did it. I think there's a few where I did it at the parents' house, and then they referred me to their kids. And I would go from one house to the other, and I got this last year. I went to the daughter's house first, and I was like, "Oh, how's your mom?" And they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen them since the pandemic." And then a couple of weeks later, I get a call from the mom, and I go, and they they think FaceTime kind of helps them a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah,
I was the other besides their gardener, or their cleaning
yeah,
ladies. I was like the other guy they would talk to. but yeah, I saw a lot of that for sure. You know, people just going through it, not being able to see their loved ones, and
Yeah.
sometimes we're that ear, you know, that we're that person they want to talk to.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah. But like I said, I feel like the people who are in ITF have the capacity to kind of understand and comprehend that, and appreciate that role, because we're not just in it to make a bunch of money. We're in it to, one, provide for our families, have a profitable and efficient business, but help others too, and if we have that little opportunity, we take advantage of it. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
You know, part of my problem is I gotta cut myself off
Yeah.
when I'm talking to them
Yep. Same
because
way, man.
I'm like, oh man, I gotta
No,
keep going. Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why I don't ever work by myself anymore. I always have someone with me, because, and I've done, and just fact, like last week, I had a guy with me, and I said, look, this is a longtime client. I'm going to probably clean about 3 windows, and I'm going to talk to them the whole rest of this time. So you're going to do this whole house by yourself. So I'm just letting you know, don't come looking for me to come and help you out. We are just going to be, and we did. I mean, we gabbed for, probably about 45 minutes, and it's just because I hadn't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
And we did. I cleaned literally like 3 windows and then just talked. And the other guy finished the house. But yeah, if I'm by myself, oh man, that was such, between talking with the customers, answering my phone, and then trying to get the job done. I mean, a house that would have normally taken me an hour, would take me 2 sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah,
you got to be careful.
I always look at my phone to be like, so at the end of the job, I know, okay, I BS for this long. You know, halfway through the job, at the end of I didn't leave till this time because after I was done, we BS for this much longer.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm a people person. I like having conversations, and
See,
it's just yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish
No,
up.
yeah, it's just it's just hearing people's stories. Something you connect different ways, and
Yeah.
it's cool, man. It's cool.
But see, that's how you build the loyalty, right? That's how you build. It's like Kevin Hargis always says, customer satisfaction is worthless. Customer loyalty is priceless, because there's probably about 80% of the companies in Tucson could satisfy our customers with a decent quality window cleaning job. But you want the customers like, I don't want none of those. I want this guy. I want Gabe to be there because he's the one I made a connection with. He's the one who I trust. And if you can get to that point where the customer, even if they can get the same deal or more from someone else, but they want you, so that's when your business is going to be good. All right. Well, one thing I did want to talk with you real briefly before we let you go is IWCA. I know you had mentioned that when you were with your former company, you had a lot of dealings with IWCA as far as going to the conventions. But you're not a member now, but you're gonna be one soon, right? You're gonna try and
Right.
get in
Yeah, I
there.
kind of held off a little bit.
Mhm.
I was planning on going last year, but then COVID hit because
Mm.
Vegas is just,
Yeah, it's hops.
it's just
You
right
can
there,
ride
man.
your bike there.
Yeah, yeah. And believe it or not, I hadn't gone to Vegas since I was like in my teens,
Mm.
with my family or something. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I figured it would be cool to go again. My first one was back in 2017
Okay.
in Arizona,
Mhm.
and that was my first one I went to, and man, I'll never forget just seeing all these people there, and just that vibe,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, man, it's so cool, man. Um, but I got to meet a couple of the I got to meet Ron Musgraves, Doug Rucker, um, and I mentioned those two because I remember going to the convention because we were hearing about soft washing,
Mm.
and we were asking people, "Oh, do you know about soft washing?" And everyone kept saying, "Oh, you got to talk to Doug."
Yeah.
Well, what Doug? Oh, there's Ron. Oh, what Ron? Because there's Ron this, Ron that. It's yeah. I even I saw what's it called? The Phil Simple.
Mhm.
He was there. he was there too. But yeah, I think being part of the IWC is this it's a mandatory thing. Well, I think because for one, if you get the training, you're up to date with safety.
Yep.
And I know for myself, I want to go to take the business classes.
Yes.
Because that's again, it's one thing being, good at window cleaning, but if I'm not that good with the business aspect, it's kind of one of those things where I just want to make sure my business succeeds.
Yeah.
And
I am the biggest proponent of that, Adrian, is because, I learned the hard way. I just did everything. I was a single owner operator for years, never really wanted to grow it. It was kind of more of a part-time thing, but it's like, you start getting customers and you just can't help but grow. And as we grew, I just was so inefficient in so many areas that I just didn't know. I mean, I'm not a businessman. I didn't start the business to have this big, huge, empire. I started it just to make a little few extra bucks, and so you fall into it, and then all of a sudden it's growing and you can't control it. And then you're starting to make decisions that you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know,
yeah.
And so that's what's, I went to did you go to the San Diego one?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay. So I went to the San Diego one, and that one was the first full one I went to, where actually, because I've been to a couple others, but it was just mainly the trade show. I really wasn't involved in it. And that was the first one I was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to take every single class I can on administration and running and how to run an office. Because by that time I had employees and I just was not running them efficiently, and I learned so much. From that one year to the next, our profits increased $20,000. And that was, I mean, we were busier. We definitely were more popular as far as a company, but that is all what I learned at the IWC convention on how to run crews, how to do, how to keep payroll manageable, how to keep track of how to actually monitor profits. I never knew how to monitor profits. I knew how much money I was coming in, but I didn't know how much money I was spending out, to do that, to get that money to come in. And, just just so many different things. It was like my eyes were opened to all of these avenues of not only making money, but saving money and spending smart, instead of just throwing money down the tube. Like you say, Yelp is good for some people, but if you don't do it right, you're just throwing money and you're not going to see nothing for it, And then that's why you get people say, oh, Yelp's terrible, or Home Advisor's terrible, or whatever. They're all just different tools. Some tools are going to work for others and some are not going to work for the rest. Yeah. And then if it might work for you, if you don't do it right, then it could still have a spectacular fail, So, but again, that's all education. That is all learning what the things that you need to know, but then also talking to the people who have been to where you're at and getting their advice. Like what you're talking about, talking to Doug, you're breaking into a new, soft washing, never done that before. What do I got to do? I got to talk to someone who's successful at it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you going to find a bunch of those people all at the same spot?
Yeah.
At the IWCA. I mean, that's what a value it is, because you get the education, organized education, and then you get the networking education, which sometimes is even more valuable than the learning in the class.
Yeah. And one of the other things I want to go for is I want to learn they got the high rise.
Oh yes, certification.
So because the Bay Area is going up, like, now that's the new thing. You got these big old, like 2-3 city block wide, wow. Condos, and they're about 8 stories, 10 stories. And that's where everything's heading, or at least over there. And, eventually when I grow, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's for one, what the funny part is, the company I worked for, we never did high rise. I leave.
That's what they do.
They told me to, man, you should have waited a little bit longer.
Oh, maybe that's more a statement of how they're afraid you were going to kill yourself. How they're like, okay, Adrian's gone. We can start the high rise now. We won't have any lawsuits. We're going to be all right.
Well, the thing was, the guys that came in, they worked for a company that, that's what they did, high rise.
Right.
They did a lot of commercial up in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came in where we do a lot more residential. But then once they had the right guys, it was like, okay, they saw opportunity to get a little bit more into that thing. So yeah, I definitely want to take that and that administration classes, and because I've reached out to a couple of guys, because I'm the kind of guy that if I see a window cleaner or a company, I'll stop and I talk to them.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I reached out to a couple of people. I'm like, hey man, if you need help, hey, I just want to try it. Don't pay me, man. Just let me do it. But some people, they're like, yeah, this guy already has his own company. I never get the call, man.
And I don't blame them for that, but I'm the same way, man. I ever since, it's like, whenever you get the side eye, you'll be cleaning some storefront and you look three storefronts down is another company, and everyone's you're kind of staring each other down. You're looking at, hey, what kind of vehicle are they driving? What do they got? Are they got a wrap, or they just got lettering, or they got a magnet, or what? You're comparing each other. And whenever that would happen, I just cut right to it. I just walk right up after I'm done. I walk over to them. Hey, I'm Gabe. I only gave Spotless Window Clean. What's your guys' name? Is this your company? Do you work for someone? How do you like it? You guys do a lot of work. I just start talking with them, and that way they know I'm not a threat. And sometimes even, of course, it depended on how the conversation went. But at the end, I'd say, just so you know, I've been doing this customer for a long time. I'm not really interested in these other ones. So I'm not. My thing is residential. I'm not in the storefronts. I just been doing this a long time. So just want to let you know, I'm cool. I'm not going to be coming to get you. And once they know that you're just a regular guy and you're not trying to go in there and just steal all of their work, then then they start waving at you, and sometimes I'll drive and there's like another company that you just, hey, what's up, man? Or I even had some of my workers come up and they said, yeah, I had some guy from another company come up and they're like, Gabe, how's it go? Oh, you're not Gabe. Oh, and so it's cool. I think there's a lot of value to that, and there's definitely some who are competitive and are like, oh, you're gonna come here, and I'm like, whatever, I don't let that bother me. But probably about, I'd say 80 to 90% of the competitors I'm friendly with, that they know me, we've met, we've talked, and it's like, they know I'm not trying to go get their work. They got their work. There's plenty of houses to go around, especially commercial to go around. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where, if you want to make a big deal about, people coming on your turf, you can, but I don't know, to me in the end, it's much more easier if you've got competitors who you're friendly with. And then if because I get a lot of workers from my competitors, I've had some of my best employees have been competitors say, hey, I hired this guy on temporary, we're done with this project, you got any openings? And I'm like, yes, if they're a good employee, send them this way, and why would they do that if they weren't comfortable with me? So that just pays to be friendly.
Well, you know what, I from one of those conversations with a window cleaner in San Francisco, my last day with the company, I had, I said my goodbyes, gave them hugs, and I was walking in my car. My boss comes out and he goes, if you know anybody, we're looking. And I get a call from this guy. Hey, is this Adrian? I said, yeah. He goes, hey, are you hiring right now? Because I'm looking for someone. I'm looking for work. And I'm like, Ron, I got a guy for you right now. And the guy's been there. I mean, what are the chances of that happening, right? The minute, my last day, I'm walking in my car, I get a call, and it's like, there it is, man, my replacement. And the guy's been there ever since. Like, the guy's been there ever since. So it's important. It's important to network.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that when I went to the convention, there was I'm not gonna say who it was, but we were asking for advice on the soft washing and other things. They were like, oh, what part of California are you guys from? Like, oh, Northern California. They were like, they didn't want to talk to us because they said that people from up here, all the window cleaners were like, they were in competition with each other, and they were like all fighting each other. So it was like, dude, but we're not, obviously we're not like that, right? Because you know, I got that happened to me from another business owner around here. They gave me attitude or whatever. But you know, back then, you know, we always talked to people, even when I was with that company, right? So we were like, well, that's not us, because we're here to, you know, network and, you know, learn, right? Talk to other window cleaners. But the guy was like, well, you're from Northern California. If you were from LA, it would be different because everyone down there networks, but you guys are all fighting each other. And I was like, oh man, you know, but eventually, you know, I kept going, you know, bugging that person. And yeah, they started, you know, all right, come on, I'll talk to you now. Yeah. But you know, I had to convince them, like, hey man, it's not like that. Yeah. I know there's people out there that are competitive, like you were mentioning. You know, there's people that think you're going to steal their business. No, this is my territory. Yep. That was their whole thing, was the territory thing. But it's like there's so much work for everyone. Yep. It's, you know, there's no point.
No, you know, and a lot of it is a pride thing too. You know, it's like people gotta be alpha, you know, and they gotta act like they're the best, or they're, you know, no one's gonna disrespect them or whatever. And it's like, you know, and I've said this a lot, and it's just, if you know me, I'm a data person. I want information. And like, someone can insult me and tell me these things that I've done wrong, and the first thing I'm going to hear is, oh, so this needs to be adjusted, or, you know, it's the information in the insult that I'm going to focus on at first, you know, and it's because that's valuable. And I don't think that's, when people shut other people out and they say, oh, I'm not talking to him because of XYZ, you've just shut off a data source. You've just shut off the opportunity to learn from that person, from their experiences, from their expertise. And like some of the people I've talked to, even some who have been in business, you know, a lot less time than me, they've just run their business a certain way. And I'm like, man, I really like that. I wish I would have thought of that, you know, 10 years ago. And I've made changes in my business because of that. And if I would have had the attitude, well, I've been doing this 20 years, there's nothing this person can teach me, I'd miss out on that information, you know? And like what you said, you know, you were smart enough to keep kind of working on that person, because you saw the value in the information that they had. And so when they were doing that, you could have just written them off and said, forget it. You know, if they're going to have the attitudes for me, I'm not talking to them. But you didn't let that shake you. And I think that's more successful business people are not afraid to get the information, you know, and they're not going to let pride get in the way, and they're not going to let attitude get in the way, or whatever. They're just going to talk to people and be, you know, work with each other and give, you know, give as much as they take. And that's how you get, and that's networking, right? That's what networking is. And if you're networking with the right people, man, it can just make such a huge difference in your business, for sure.
Oh yeah. That's why, you know, I like Into the Flow. It's you know, you feel the brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one family.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah, for sure, man. But I'll never forget that, man. I was like, oh man, that's not cool. You know, you're trying to get information and they're like,
yeah.
But I was like, oh man, yeah, you know, yeah. But it's again, you know, that's why I like I love talking to other companies. I love talking to other companies, and it's just, you know, sometimes I get big jobs that I know I can't handle.
Right. Yep.
So hey, now I got someone to call. Oh, this company, they got X amount of crew members, or that's what they do. Now I'm going to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, I've done that several times.
Me too.
I know when not to click on something.
Yeah, absolutely, Adrian. You're absolutely right, man. But yeah, we got to wrap things up, because you and I, we could just talk pretty much all day long, because we get along so well. And I really appreciate you coming on. In fact, we're gonna have to have you come on another time. All right. So maybe like 6 months down the road, we'll have you come back and we'll find out, see how your little baby's doing. But just so you guys all know and who's listening in, Adrian and I did an interview a few weeks ago and we had technical errors and we lost it. And it was such a good interview. And I said, Adrian, we got to have you come back, man. We got to do it again. This interview was nothing like that other interview. But it was really, really good. And it broke my heart that we lost it. So I think you and I just connect enough that we can get a lot of good information out there from two experienced workers and you've been doing this for a while. So we'll definitely have you back. But hey, please send our love and congratulations to your family on your new one. And we really wish you the best, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me again, Gabe.
All right, buddy. Well, you take care. And thank you guys all for listening. We appreciate it. And you guys have a great weekend. Flow on.